Good morning, morning, good morning, morning. I wanna share my love, but it's gotta be with someone who's precious. You're never gonna get my love, accepting that you're real, real precious. You're never gonna cramp my style, baby, cause I get a lot of pleasure. And if you wanna test my style, you better have a whole lot of measure. Cause I'm a rock back chick, never tag along, then never look back chick. Trendy, a little crazy, intelligently singing rock back chick. No sticks, no stones, or any kind of weapon don't belong here. I don't wanna break no bones, I just want a microphone. Take the mask off your face and look at me face to face. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning. Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning, good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning. Want a microphone, morning. I just want a microphone, morning, morning. Take the mask off your face and look at me face to face. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning. Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning. This world is getting so cold, I wanna keep running like a soldier. Somebody must have touched my soul, cause there ain't no stopping till it's over. I wanna get up out my chair, cause everybody. Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers. It's 7 a.m. and this is the Tobago Updates morning show coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough. As we continue to give God thanks for life, I am Julian Skeet.
And I am Ria Richardson George, and this is the day that the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. Good morning to Tobago, good morning Trinidad, good morning those of you in the Caribbean, and those of you on the live, good morning, Julian Skeet. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Ria. Good morning. It is Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, the 17th of May. A beautiful month indeed.
Yes.
As we continue to celebrate May here.
We'll never hear the end of it, viewers, until we get into June.
Ria, what's happening? What's been happening in the Tobago space?
Well, Julian, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the story of this missing schoolgirl out of Mason Hall Secondary School. So it was all over social media, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, that this young girl was missing. And this morning I'm seeing some updated information that she has been found. Now, hear me out. I'm a parent, and I'm saying here, I'm subject to correction and subject to information and you know, discussion. when all of this is done, when we have social media, we have the police coming forward, we have reporters coming out and stating that XY throughout Trinidad and Tobago has been missing. Last seen wearing a blue skirt, red top, hair braided, black sandals. When all of this information comes and persons start sharing and persons start being on the lookout, when this person is found alive, safe and well, I think it is incumbent on those who initially posted the information to state where they were found. Not just the fact that they're safe and they were returned to their homes safely. No, that's all well and good. I'm saying here, they were found at X home in San Fernando, in Bell Garden, in Toco. We need more. We deserve more as a people. You understand? I'm just saying here.
You know, reasonable expectation. I'm not sure if they'll go as far to say where, but reasonable expectation, because sometimes.
But it should be.
We've had sad situations in the past where individuals are reported as missing, and then you find them by a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or they took a few days out, they needed to refresh themselves, or a husband and wife goes missing, and then you recognize they may have needed some time for themselves. So, you know, it is important that I just think, for me, what I agree with fully that you're saying is the same level of energy to highlight,
yes,
you know, that this person was missing. Just remember to put something back out there.
Thank you.
To give the public a sense that, you know, there's some kind of hope when this person has been found. And Ria goes a little further to say, even indicate to us the circumstances under which
definitely
they have been found. Viewers, at this point, we head on over to news in 90 seconds with Denicia.
Thank you, Julian. Here's your news in 90 seconds. Members of the long-awaited Tobago Carnival Committee were released last evening via press release. Chairing the committee will be Misha Trim. Other members will include Anya Elias, David Maharaj, and Christoph Roberts. It will also include representatives from the Pan, Mass and Calypso fraternity, along with the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited and the Tobago Festival Commission Limited. No timelines were presented in the release, nor any indications of when the schedule of events will be announced. However, the committee will come into effect on May 30th for the duration of 6 months. In other news, the THA was allocated $62 million out of the $3 billion that the central government is requesting to supplement the budget for fiscal 2022. Finance Minister Colum Imbert says the funds are to treat with the debt in the THA, such as the National Helicopter Service, arrears to TNTech, and outstanding gratuity. This sum equals 2% of the total allocation. Chief Secretary Farley Augustine had hoped that the THA would be granted a sum in line with the Dispute Resolution Committee ruling, which states the THA should be allocated between 4.03% and 6% of the national budget. Meanwhile, revenue and gross domestic product for Trinidad and Tobago has increased, according to Finance Minister Colum Imbert during the mid-year review in Parliament yesterday. He says public debt is decreasing and the government has not borrowed any money since December 2021. It moved from a deficit of $9.095 billion in fiscal 2022 to $4.7 billion in September 2021, and now to a surplus in the second quarter of 2022 of $664 million. The revenues earned came from the energy industry, taxes on income profits, taxes on goods and services, duties from customs, and taxes from international trade. That was your news in 90 seconds. Back to you, Julian.
Thank you so much, Denicia. They're keeping us in the know. Those of you joining us here in Trinidad and Tobago, those of you joining us in the region and the world at large. We had a big day yesterday, mid-year budget review. You know, in terms of and additional funds, so to speak, being allocated to the Tobago House of Assembly. And we have first on the rundown this morning to chat with us, Ria, to give us heads up on that area. We have Anselm Richards, economist and social scientist, speaking about more money for the THA within the lineup this morning. And Anselm is followed by Rihanna Harilal, founder and the president of the Voice of Lupus Foundation, advocating for lupus awareness. And who do we wrap with this morning, Ria? We also wrap with Prince Unique and Anomaly. That's a veteran calypsonian and entertainer, Prince Unique, and Anomaly, I hope I have that pronunciation right, recording artist and entertainer. So we're going to hear from them in the lineup this morning in terms of our rundown. And viewers, at this point we prepare to head on in to our birthday celebrations. Birthday celebrations this morning. We've got a long list. Not as long this morning, but we got a listing this morning. May Bonds, Rochelle Percy. We're sending birthday shout outs this morning, coming from the Tobago Updates family to Rochelle Percy. Want to wish you a happy birthday.
As well, one of my favorite cousins out there in Rockaway, New York. This is Alicia Richardson Williams celebrating her birthday today. So Lisa, love going out to you. You can see the resemblance.
And she's also on the live.
She's on the live
with us.
She's on the live. Happy birthday going out to you from the entire Tobago family.
Happy birthday.
All right, and then we've got Neville Andrew Baird, son of the soil, right here in Tobago. Happy birthday going out to you this morning, Neville Andrew Baird, from the Tobago Updates family.
And we also have on the lineup here this morning, and this is Pamela O'Geese. And Pamela O'Geese continues to make us very proud there nationally, continuing to do her service there at the Election and Boundaries Commission, really representing us very well. So we want to give a birthday shout out to Pamela O'Geese, and we trust that you have an enjoyable birthday. Let the celebrations continue. It's May 2022.
That's right. I tell you, we'll never hear the end of this month of May birthday celebrations. Okay, I think almost every day there's a birthday in May. So
yes, and we see we've got some folks on the live keeping us very active and connected this morning. We see Auntie Dora is on the live, Heather Cook joining us. You're most welcome, Alicia. All right, Lizzie Harry is on the live with us this morning. Dee Dee Vincent,
never missing it,
on the live. Marlene Hamilton, Sheridan Kirk, morning.
There's Karen Wilson. Karen, good morning to you, my dear.
Donna May, I'm seeing Donna May Walcott also on the live this morning. Kerry, Godfrey, Kuki, Donil. Hey, Donil Vincent, Mr. Active himself.
You should read the comment from Julia Brown.
And Julia Brown. To my favorite hosts, Rhea and Julia, I appreciate you guys for the wonderful job you guys are doing. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Julia Brown, and we continue to say it's because of persons like you and each and every one of our viewers, those of you joining us via TV, those of you joining us via radio. Folks, we got another radio station coming in the mix very, very soon. From next week, you will have another frequency on which to tune into the Tobago Updates morning show. So it's going to be Smash Radio. It's going to be, you can connect with us via Gaia, via M&E TV, TobagoUpdates.com, YouTube, via Facebook, and we're adding another station. Well, stay tuned. Rhea will certainly give them more info on that.
That's right. And we see Kenneth Phillips also on the live. Good morning, Rhea, Richardson George, and Julian Skeet. Good morning to you, Kenneth. Charlotte Ramsey Roberts, Hazel Isaac, Petal Robbie. Good morning to you guys. Always loving to have you guys locked on with us. And Hazel Isaac is saying good morning from South Trinidad. South, good morning.
Thank you so much. We appreciate the continued support, Rhea, and it's important because persons connect, and that's ultimately our primary purpose as a production house here at the Tobago Updates, really seeking to bring Tobago content far and wide. Hey, our youth host is on. Our youth host is on. Morning, Aliyah. Morning, Aliyah. All right, and Liebert Jack, thank you so much to you all for the support. And if you see the kind of cues we are getting at this moment, but we love you and we thank you so much for the support. We prepare to head on into the next segment with Anselm Richards, that gives us a little insight. More money for Tobago. Seems like we're getting some good stuff, good gifts coming in from the government. We'll hear his perspective as an economist and social scientist when we return for the next segment. Viewers, this is your reminder to ensure that you share the live, share the live, share the live.
I just want the microphone. Take the mask off your face and look at me face to face. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place.
Tobago Glass Supplies has been a leading name for over 37 years in the glass and aluminum market in Tobago. We provide an extensive range of high-quality, innovative aluminum and glass products for commercial and residential use. Competitive prices with superior and professional services by committed employees who are guided by rigid quality standards. Tobago Glass Supplies specializes in the manufacture and installation of glass and aluminum products that are essential to today's homeowners and the business environment. We are engaged in marketing, sales, and installation of a variety of products. These ranges from windows and doors to necessities such as mirrors for homes and vehicles, designed and manufactured in-house or imported.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash and transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
Tobago in May. Prices are sweet like mango at Thorns Place. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp. Call now 745-7306 for our May special starting at 200 TT at Thorns Place. Prices are sweet like mango.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning.
Morning viewers, it's 7:13 a.m. and this is the Tobago Updates morning show coming to you here live from the Port Mall in Scarborough. Just before we head on into this segment, those of you viewing us from South Trinidad, we have a shout out, well, this is a shout out, but also an indication that you are missing a main piece of identification. Leroy Calise, we require Leroy Calise to make sure we've got information here regarding your DP and bank information. Please make every effort to connect with us. Leroy Calise, make every effort to connect with us here at the Tobago Update Studio located at the Port Mall to please collect your relevant information. Leroy Calise out of San Fernando. So if you know Leroy Calise, please, somebody connect with him, whether in Tobago or those of you connecting with us from South Trinidad, to let him know that he can collect his information here, his banking information as well as his ID information here at the Tobago Update Studio located at the Port Mall here in Scarborough. In this segment, viewers, we are chatting with Anselm Richards, no stranger to us here in the Tobago space, economist and social scientist. And if Ria were on, she would also add in a man from the East himself, representing here, East Tobago, that is. All right, morning to you, Anselm Richards.
Morning, Julian. Morning, Tobago. Thanks for having me.
All right, excellent. Well, this morning, as we begin the conversation, we want to put certain things into context. We just had the media review, but before we even delve into that in more details, give us a sense of what our starting point might have been as at the budget reading, as at the start of the financial year 2021 coming into 2022, and then we dive on into the media.
Okay, well, when the current administration took over office in December, and a total analysis and inquiry was done into the financial position of the THA, you can recall that the Chief Secretary presented to the nation and more particularly to Tobago what was the financial state of the THA at the time. So he inherited an assembly with a liability of $738 million, right? And that does not include the $164 million borrowed through bond financing, which becomes due at the end of, in June of 2027, where we have to make a bullet payment. And a bullet payment means a full repayment of the principal borrow. At this particular time in the arrangement of the bonds, in terms of the term sheet, we are paying interest on the bonds biannually, twice per year, which amounts to just over $8 million. So that will be paid until 2027, and then the bullet payment for the entire $65 million is due. So it means, therefore, we have that liability portfolio to manage. So what we would have done thus far, we would have established a committee. That committee is being chaired by Carlos Hazel, a very senior economist and financial analyst at the division, and we have put in place certain measures to manage the debt and pay it down responsibly over time, because that's the challenge, because you inherited that without the kind of resources necessary. And most of that is on the development side of the expenditure of the THA, in particular in works and the health sector, were the largest division that accumulated that kind of liability. So we are working on that, and we have been in conversation with the Ministry of Finance towards securing the resources to liquidate that liability over time. You know, we still have about roughly 60 to 70% of the parliamentary allocation available. That is expected to be consumed by the end of the fiscal year, September 30th, because as we accelerate our development activity and our activity generally as an administration, we expect that the spending will accelerate to give attendant resources to the activity that this administration is pursuing. In the first 3-4 months, it was like understanding the lay of the land, unpacking what have been there for the last 20 years and looking under in the corners to see what liability, what challenges you inherited and so forth. So the administration is at the point where it is settling down. You know, there's a very clear understanding of the financial resources that is available, what needs to be done to put Tobago on that development path. So we are pressing ahead with the program of the administration.
Tell us, one of the areas I'm spoken to, you know, in terms of moving forward now to where we are at, one of the areas that would have come up a number of times is the Assembly now in a position, along with central government, where they are complying with the law of the land specific to when funds are to be transferred to the Tobago House of Assembly, or is there that's still being worked out, still some challenges?
Well, the arrangement, and by law, the law prescribes, the THA Act prescribes that the parliamentary allocation to the Tobago Assembly should be dispersed to the Assembly en bloc in quarters, 3 months amongst. That has not been happening for some time, because the country as a whole has been experiencing significant cash flow issues. The resources of the central government have dipped significantly because of what is happening with the international energy in the market. Even our own domestic productivity and production have been hit by mechanization and other production processes. The COVID-19 was not a pleasant experience for the world. That has really upended production and across the world. So there's no argument about the fact that the country has been hit in terms of its cash flow. But the effort to pay and to provide the resources in a timely manner to the THA remains a significant concern to this administration. Because what the 3 months en bloc gives the THA is a level of predictability. So you can plan your work program knowing that you have 3 months resources to deal with your expenditure over that period. That has not happened. We inherited a situation that was not happening. The Chief Secretary and Secretary of Finance, Trade and the Economy would have engaged early days with the Minister of Finance with the view of having some kind of stability built into the allocation to the THA. We were not able to secure the 3 months, but we were able to get 2 months. So that is an improvement given the overall national financial situation that the government is facing. So there is some improvement in that. We are moving incrementally back to what the law is saying, but we understand the reality of the central government, and we would have negotiated as a minimum we must get our money in 2 months block.
Give us a clear idea in relation to the chief would have indicated that a request was made for, is it 200 million?
225 million.
225 million in terms of supporting what is certainly the continued operations of the Tobago House of Assembly within this time. What were some of the major areas that would have been targeted, hence that kind of request at this time in terms of additional funding? Notwithstanding we got 60 plus, but having requested 200 plus.
So here's the thing. When we looked at the financial situation in the THA, and we recognized that we are at the point of the midterm review, we decided that this is a perfect opportunity to start responding in an organized way to the financial reality of the THA. So we look across the financial landscape of the THA, and as I said, we recognized that there was a $730 million liability. So it obviously that we need to get some resources to pay down some of the aging or the age liability that we would have inherited. There's also a need for us to make provision to pay that $165 million bullet payment in 2027. Because if we don't provide for that now, in terms of providing an account, where you call in the economics language or in the financial language, a sinking fund, where you put aside that money so over the next 5 years, it will add up to $165 million. When that day comes, you have to find the investors' money. So being responsible, we decided, well, look, we will make an approach to the central government, because it is the central government by cabinet decision that gave the THA the permission to borrow this money without first arranging or ascertaining in a deliberate way how this money will be repaid. And so we said, okay, we will approach the central government in the midterm review for a sum of money to put aside. And what we would have done is a simple straight line arithmetic. We say, okay, it's $165 million. We have 5 years to prepay that. We divide it by 5, so we have to put aside $40 million a year to arrive at that payment. So we did that.
What you have reverted there is to the good old basics that Granny and Grandpa used to apply to ensure that things do the build-up, but you do it in economic terms.
Right. So we did that, and we look at the debt portfolio, and we said, okay, we have the Roxborough Hospital was outstanding for $125 million, and that is probably the largest age portfolio, the liability on the books. So we said, okay, we owe that to you, the cut. We will approach the central government for that. And there is some age liabilities to Tech and the helicopter services and gratuity payment in the TRHA. So when we look across it, we pull those figures together, and we said, central government, we are looking for $225 million from your midterm review. Mind you, we had no information from the central government as what the projected increase in the national budget would have been.
Yes.
So we are just doing what we think is reasonable and what is required to ensure we protect the interests of Tobago and the interests of the people of Tobago. And we thought that $225 million, given the figure, given the calculation, given the convention and what the law says, that whatever figure they come with, if you go at 2, because we scaled it up to, we're not operating in a vacuum here. So we recognize that $225 million request in a midterm increase in the appropriation bill will take us in excess of $4 billion. And that was the calculation. So we say, whether they come 4.5, we are within the 4.03% range, and we operate at that level in terms of being prudent, being responsible. So we sent that down to the Port of Spain. We did not know what the budget figure would have been. The figure came $3.081 billion. If we do the arithmetic, Tobago should have been awarded or allocated $120.9 million if we go to the law and what the convention has been vis-a-vis
120.9 thousand million.
Yes,
it was. Oh, it's 3 billion.
It's okay. $3.081 billion.
Good.
So 4.03% of that works out, if my arithmetic is correct,
roughly, yes, correct,
it's $120.9 million. They gave us $60 million, which is significantly below what should have been allocated to Tobago.
So that's almost about 2%.
About 2%, well, 1.59% to be precise when you do the calculations, right? So there's a conversation to be had with the Minister of Finance as to how the calculations were made, what informed the decision of the budget department in Port of Spain. Because we have a set of non-Tobagonian public servants in Trinidad that are doing some calculation without understanding the law, understanding the reality of Tobago, and they just decide what Tobago should be allocated or Tobago should receive. But there's a fundamental issue that we need as Tobagonians and as Trinidadians and Tobagonians, is to understand that the budget is the most powerful statement of any administration, any government, because it allocates resources or expenditure to thousands, if not hundreds, if not thousands of government programs and projects. It is the most powerful statement. But the current constitutional arrangement and the current fiscal and budgetary arrangement that happens between Trinidad, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and the island government of Tobago, is very discriminatory to Tobago. It does not give Tobago the full power of what a budget is intended to do. Because in the current arrangement is populated with uncertainties. You don't know what you get. You plan your program of work and you just send it to Trinidad and they decide you should get $5, you should get 10, you should get 20. You never know what the figure is. There is no predictability. Notwithstanding that the DRC gives some frame within which you should operate. And then the sad part of that is that you may ask for $100 million to do coastal protection. Because we understand the importance of coastal protection. To save our community, to save our coastal infrastructure, our road. Most of our roadways are along the coastal end of the island. And they will decide in Port of Spain that you should not get $100 million for that. Somebody else allocate the money as they choose, which disrupts the whole financial and development program of the THA. So there's a need for some serious decision and conversation to be had. And that's why the issue of internal self-government becomes so significant. If Tobago development momentum is to be accelerated, if we have to build predictability in the way we conduct government in Tobago, because certainly what is happening here is not government. The way it is happening is that the THA is reduced by and large to a spending agency as dictated by the budgetary process in Port of Spain.
So one of the things you've heard persons speak to, under these circumstances where it is, does the mid-year review and an additional budgetary allocation, does the law in that context of the stipulated minimum also apply to a mid-year review as it does to the presentation of the budgetary allocation? Could it be a matter of interpretation on the part of technical officers?
Well, I don't know what is the difficulty in understanding whether the allocation or the prescription of or what to be allocated to Tobago is the mid-year review is subject to that. The fact of the matter is that the mid-year review is an extension of the budget. You go back to Parliament to increase the budget. That's what it is about. Don't get tied up with all the fancy, dancy talk. The bare fact is that the mid-year review is that the minister goes back to the Parliament, which has the authority to approve the appropriation bill, which is the expenditure bill for the country. He goes back to Parliament seeking parliamentary approval for that to happen. If you are changing the composition and the value of the national budget, then whatever addition you are bringing to the table must subject to the convention of how that is shared between Trinidad and Tobago. That's a simple argument. That's a simple presentation. That's a simple expectation. But you know, we are people. We look for all kinds of reason to reason the decision that we make. But basic logic and law requires you to conform for conformity to what the law prescribes and what the convention has been.
And we move now towards the actual allocation that would have been received, and it's just about 62, over 60
million, just
right,
about that.
Just over 60 million. In these circumstances now, and these additional funding would be intended to take us through to September of 2022.
Right.
Just give the viewers a clear sense.
Right. So the 60 million was allocated to deal with what we would have requested, those aging liabilities, right? So the budgetary allocation for fiscal 2022 is already there to take us to September 30th, 2022, right? So that is part of the 2.3 let me give you the figure here, that we receive in September, right? Okay, that is part of the 2.357 billion that was received in October for the fiscal year 2022. So the money is there.
To cover recurrent expenditure.
So recurrent expenditure of that amount is 2.075 billion, and our development budget for that year is a simple $264 million. Right? So we have no money to do development, right? And that is a conversation which will be had by the Chief Secretary in the upcoming budget, and how we move the development figure up and so forth. So that is provided there, right? The $60 million is intended and was allocated by the Parliament on the request of the THA to deal specifically with some outstanding bills that the TRHA has with TNTech, right? I think there is about $15 million. And then there is a bill, an outstanding bill, an age bill with the helicopter services that fly our people to Port of Spain when they are critically ill and we can't provide the kind of medical care and intervention that is necessary to save Tobagonian life at Signal Hill. So we have to keep that service in the air. If we don't pay them, the chopper may be grounded. So we have received from the Parliament the resources to liquidate those liabilities. And part of the $60 million was provided to pay outstanding gratuities to workers in the TRHA, dated back to 2017, thereabout. So that $60 million is spent. It's spent already. We're just clearing the deck, as it will. So while we receive the $60 million, it is not to increase any expenditure for fiscal 2022. It's just to liquidate some liability. So it hasn't really changed the financial reality of the THA in any significant way. What it changes is the liability construct of the THA going forward.
I want to tap into your resource here and skill set as an economist. Bearing in mind what one would definitely describe now as limited resources, and we date back to as the very early days of the Tobago House of Assembly, and you would oftentimes hear the first Chief Secretary, Outre Charles, refer to the fact that he had much less, and he believes very firmly that he was able to do much more. How do we, again from an economist perspective, how do we try to move things forward strategically at this point, noting that we are probably working with less resources than we might have had available to us before, based on some of the conditions which you have mentioned earlier in relation to coming out of the pandemic situation, the economy now rebuilding and so on. How do we approach that in the best possible way to strive to make the best uses of the limited resources that are available?
Well, there's a significant cultural shift that needs to take place in Tobago. Right? Over the last 21 years, there has been a culture that you don't have to work in Tobago to be paid. Right? So we have to have the conversation with Tobagonians to get them to realize the relationship between their very existence and what they produce. That has to take place. If you're not producing as a living being, and you are consuming, then you are a parasite, right? to say it bluntly, that's the law of biology, right? So I'm just using science. So it means, therefore, we have to get to be willing to understand that if you are living on the island and you're of the working age, right, and you are not in school, you have to engage in some productive activity and you have to produce. There's no benefit to you and to your family and to the island for you to go to work and sit down and do anything. What that means is that we have to come to the place where we recognize that we have to produce to survive. That's a fundamental discussion that must take place with Tobagonian. And that has not been taking place for the last 20 years. So there is this culture that I'm a Tobagonian, I'm entitled. There's a kind of entitlement culture here that is really disturbing and self-defeating in itself. So we have to cheat with that conversation. The other thing we have to do, we have to increase labor productivity and the capital share in our production processes. That's probably a little kind of technical conversation. But what it means is, therefore, we have to learn to do more with less, right? We also have to manage the resources we have and avoid wastages. There have been significant wastages in Tobago over the last 21 years. There is no way in any prudent government management system that you would have inherited or you would have experienced over $40 billion or $45 billion, yeah, about $40 to $45 billion in the last 21 years, and you have an economy in the state that Tobago is in today. That's a crisis in itself in terms of government and fiscal discipline. That's a crisis that we need to treat with, a crisis that we need to ensure as Tobago and we do not repeat. Right? So it requires that. Significantly, it requires us to strengthen the business processes of government to ensure efficiency and timely delivery of service to the people of Tobago. We need to also have strategic investment opportunities or decisions that will move resources, especially on the development side of the THE expenditure, into productive activity that will produce revenues for Tobago. We have to decide in Tobago whether we are going to continue to go to Port of Spain every October with a basket, or whether we will send down somebody with a bag to collect this money, or whether we are going to get into productive means and start being self-sufficient. Because when you become self-sufficient, then the minister in Port of Spain can decide whether you'll get $60 million out of 225 that you have asked for, because you are owning your keeps. Right? The other thing we have to do in Tobago, we have to ensure that we do the kind of calculation and get the kind of technical data to understand the resources that are in the waters of Tobago and what we are contributing to the national post. Here the strength of that. When you have that kind of information, you can sit in Port of Spain and explain to the central government that Tobago is contributing X billion dollars to the national post. And there has to be a changing of the game. There has to be some kind of informed revenue sharing arrangement between Trinidad and Tobago. We cannot allow Port of Spain to determine how our resources are spent. We have to agree as to how these resources should be distributed. And that is where intergovernmental arrangement and affairs comes into play. That is where maturity in sovereign government and sub-sovereign government comes into play. So the whole constitutional construct, the whole way government operates in Trinidad and Tobago vis-a-vis the central government and the THE, that has to change. We have to change the laws. There is no point Tobago continuing and fighting this game without we pressing forward and ensuring that at the end of the day, the Constitution is reconstructed to give Tobago the kind of constitutional authority and protection from the invasion of some decision in Trinidad that is not in the interest of Tobago. There's no game saying about that. If we don't secure that, we will never be able to develop the island the way we think it should be developed. For instance, you have the central government coming into Tobago, deciding to build an airport. None of us in Tobago understand what this airport is intended for. Well, we know it is intended for planes, bigger planes to land, but what it's going to look like, does it capture the aspiration and the will of the people of Tobago? Does it bring the kind of social stability? Those are fundamental. It's the Tobago story, you know, and we have to be the authors of the Tobago story. It is our story. It is our legacy. It is what we are going to give to the next generation of Tobagonians. And therefore, we have to come to that place where we have the kind of civil conversation, we make Port of Spain understand, and then we move in unison to create a better Trinidad and Tobago.
You've touched on a point which is certainly an area of interest for many, and it has come up particularly within recent times in speaking to the issue of autonomy. Quantifying what comes out there in terms of our waters, does that therefore extend to you also being an advocate for Tobago being able to collect and utilize taxes and so on here in the Tobago space? And I'm not just speaking to what is collected on a broad scale here from on a limited scale from Tobago, but I'm also speaking to the kind of taxes and revenues that are collected in Tobago, but goes directly back to, for example, branches of the commercial banks and so on that is registered as Trinidad and Tobago, when in fact a portion of that came right out of the Tobago space. I'm not touching on and I'm going into another area there, but we have limited time. But give us a sense. Does your view also extend in that regard? What's your perspective?
Well, my fundamental position is, look, every revenue that is generated in Tobago and is taxable in Tobago, the taxes should be paid in Tobago. Now, we have the dichotomy where you have entities like the banks that are headquarters in Port of Spain with branches in Tobago, and they pay their taxes in Trinidad. What we need to do is really do the actual accounting to see what they are paying The tax don't necessarily have to pay, we are not concrete.
Correct.
Right? So we can do the book, we can understand that, look, Scotia in Tobago is paying $2 million or $5 million taxes from Tobago in Port of Spain. We add that to our tax revenue, so we know exactly what our GDP base is and the tax that comes from that. Now, there are some fundamental changes, and as we speak to the issue of digitization will solve those issues very simply, right? Because with the strike of a button, the keyboard, you can apportion the taxes that will be paid. So we will solve some of those issues. Now, fortunately, yesterday I went to a business place in Tobago, and the proprietor is saying to me, you all need to look into the area of custom duties being paid. Because what we are understanding now is that, notwithstanding that the custom is operating a computerized system that affords you to pay your custom duties anywhere in the country, the business people in Tobago, when they go to custom here, they are saying you have to make the check payable to customs in Trinidad, and that kind of managerial check and all kind of thing. So I was asked to look into that to understand why the custom fees and duties cannot be paid in Tobago. But I know the answer to that. The custom department in Tobago is under the Division of Finance. So if you pay the money here, you go stay. So apparently there is some kind of administrative arrangement for those fees to be paid in Port of Spain. But we are going to look into it, and I am certain that the Chief Secretary and the Secretary of Finance, Trade and the Economy are going to have the required and necessary conversation with the Ministry of Finance in Port of Spain and the Controller of Customs for us to have a better understanding of why that is the modality that is being used to ensure that the resources that ought to be collected in Tobago is in fact collected here in Tobago and are made available to do the business of the Assembly in the interest of the people of Tobago. That's the mandate of the administration.
Thank you
that's
very
the responsibility
much.
of the administration.
We're out of time this morning, but certainly an opportunity to really have a factual kind of discourse in relation to where we are at in the context of the Tobago space from an economic perspective, and also looking at the figures in a very real sense and how we had to move things forward. In the words of one of our viewers, Anne-Marie Davis, tuned in with us this morning. Well said, Mr. Richards. Production is key to everything that we do. And therefore we take those words to say thank you very much for joining us on the Tobago Updates Morning Show. Viewers, we've been listening to Anselm Richards, economist and a social scientist, speaking here to Money Matters for the Tobago House of Assembly and Tobago. Viewers, at this point, we want to remind you, coming up next in the next segment, Ria will be chatting with Rihanna Harilal, founder and president of the Voice of Lupus Foundation. And we look forward to that interview. And we say at this time, this is your opportunity to remember to share the live, share the live, share the live.
Cause everybody's getting so lazy. Don't want nobody touch my hair. Cause a lot of sisters acting too crazy. And them not tough like this, rough like this, and them not nice like this. Some can't take it when you talk true sense. Rather hear the words that glorify nonsense. Yes, and I got my brains, and I'm pretty like my mama. I don't wanna pick your brain.
For that all-in-one shopping experience, then look no more. Visit Lamb's Best Mart for your grocery items, fruits and vegetables, drinks, home items, stationery, gift items, hampers, shopping gift cards, toiletries, small hardware items, and much more. We provide order and pickup service, even delivery to your door. We are your friendly community supermarket. Check us out today at Lamb's Best Mart, located at 22 Daniel Trace Canby, or visit us on social media at Lamb's Best Mart.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tobago. Your meals, medication, groceries and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tobago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tobago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tobago's at your service.
There's a taste in the air everywhere. Feel the vibe cause it's something to share. Smooth, rich and creamy, you'll find it right here. Makes you smile, relax a while, it's fun and good cheer. Ooh, enjoy every scoop. Ooh, every day. This is Uncle Pete's.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome back to the Tobago Updates Morning Show. Yes, lots of great and exciting things continue to be happening here on the show. And just before we get into our next interview, we want to inform you this morning that we've got a lost driver's permit and Scotiabank card belonging to Leroy Shaka Caliste out there in San Fernando. So if any of our viewers this morning know Mr. Leroy Shaka Caliste, please inform him that his DP, driver's permit, and the Scotiabank card are located here at the Tobago Updates office, located at the 3rd floor, Port Mall, Scarborough, Tobago. So at this time, we are chatting with my good friend out there, Rihanna Harilal. Rihanna, good morning. Are you there? That's right. There you are.
Yes, good morning. Hi.
Good morning and welcome to the program.
I feel so happy to feel like if I'm in Tobago.
I know you would have given anything to have been here face to face.
So true, so true.
All right, so Rihanna is the founder and president of the Voice of Lupus Foundation. The Voice of Lupus Foundation. And this morning we're talking about advocating for lupus awareness. Rihanna, it's really good to see you. We know that you have been through a lot. In fact, the fact that we're chatting with you this morning says that you are more than a survivor.
It's been a journey. It's been a journey.
Definitely.
It's been a journey. And I think it's finding purpose in adversities, finding purpose in, the struggles of living with lupus. It's very difficult.
Yeah, and I want you to tell our viewers this morning, when we talk lupus, for those who are joining us for the first time and now hearing about lupus for the very first time, what does lupus look like? Give us an idea of your day-to-day life and what lupus has done to your body and how you've survived.
Yes, and I think first of all, lupus really has no boundaries because in terms of identity, in terms of gender, in terms of race, in terms of ethnicity, lupus is a chronic autoimmune disease. It's a chronic disease. It's a disease where the body's immune system, which was ideally meant to protect from viruses and bacteria, the immune system's function, that's what it's meant to do. But when you have lupus, your body's immune system starts attacking, starts recognizing your own healthy organs, tissues, and cells as a foreign invader. So antibodies are created, which starts to destroy the body. So essentially, my body's raging war inside of me. Now, I don't physically look ill. This year's theme for lupus awareness is actually let's make lupus visible, because the symptoms of lupus sometimes are not. Had you not introduced me as a survivor or someone living with lupus, no one would have known, no one would see my illness, and it is a chronic, debilitating, invisible disability. And over the years, as you know, Ria, we have been advocating heavily, both in Trinidad and in Tobago, raising awareness, getting people to know the signs and the symptoms of lupus, because how can you say you do not have lupus if you do not even know what it is? And for many years, we sat at Penny Savers supermarket, advocating, raising awareness on the island, even though we do not have a permanent office. Penny Savers always opened their doors to us. It's been several years we haven't been there because of the pandemic. We have not been able to have that presence in Tobago. But I'm so happy for the platform because there's so many Tobagonians living with lupus, but they struggle because of the misconception of what a diagnosis of lupus can bring. Also, the discrimination and the misunderstanding that lupus is somewhat linked to HIV and AIDS. Many patients who don't always physically exhibit symptoms face severe discrimination. You're too lazy. yeah, it's not as serious as it sounds, because most of them don't physically look ill. And there's a difference, yeah? There's a difference, especially the struggle when you're telling someone I am ill and you do not even look the part. And many patients spend time trying to validate their illness as opposed to getting people to understand what lupus is, because you don't look it, you don't fit the criteria. And for me, over the years, that has been a very it has been really a thorn in my side, because I don't look the part, and there has been cases in my past as a broadcast journalist where I was accused of faking my illness, not legitimately being ill, because of the misconception. And that is the narrative of many patients, not just myself. Many patients communicate with us here at the Voice of Lupus Foundation's Lupus Learning Resource Center. Many patients are unable to hold down their jobs. Many of them end up losing their jobs. Some of them, are very fortunate that they have understanding employers, and they get the respective time off, and even, to help them, work through their, clinic appointments and all that sort of thing. But, the one thing I should say, the plus of the pandemic actually helped employers to see that, you don't have to physically show up at a building to work, the ability to, work virtually and to work from home. And I think a lot of patients are now being extended this courtesy where they can still hold on their, maintain their independence, hold on their job, and, still be able to work from home at their own pace, if you know what I mean. But that's not always the story. And, I think awareness is really needed, and we continue to fight for this, continue to give lupus a voice, continue to help patients along the way. And we just came out of World Lupus Day last week, May 10th, and the organization has a series of webinars carded for this month into the rest of the year, where we are just focused on education and also empowering through education for patients, because many patients diagnosed with lupus, they don't even understand their illness.
That's right.
And it's important, and it's really important to teach our patients that you can thrive in spite of having lupus. It's not a death sentence. It's very tough. It's very tough to live and battle lupus. I mean, in 2017, 2017 was one of my worst years of living with lupus, where I was, I was in a coma in ICU for 9 weeks abroad. Didn't even think I would have lived and pulled through that. But God has me here for a purpose, and it's really finding purpose in pain. And I'm a champion of that type of radical faith. Even though it looks like it's over, God still can make a miracle happen. Right. And my life is that of a testimony, really. To showcase the power of bouncing back and the power of God. That what He can do. I mean, I was a hot mess. Before starting this organization, I was so lost. I was so, it was a pit of hopelessness where my diagnosis was concerned, because at the time of my diagnosis back in 2005, 2006, around there was not much information. Right. There was no support. And that is why I think God used me to start an organization to really offer that type of support and, of course, knowledge, information, to advocate, to raise awareness, because there are thousands of us out there living with lupus.
Now, Rihanna, I have to congratulate you. You said you were a hot mess, but you look so gorgeous this morning, so gorgeous. And according to you, no one would have known what you've been through, in fact, what you're going through currently. Now, you don't toot your own horn, and we want to do that for you this morning. And we want to congratulate you this morning for your recent award. You received the Hummingbird Medal Gold at the 2020 National Awards Ceremony at the President's House. And this is one of the first times I think that we're having you on the program with us since that. You look absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. So congratulations. And this is for your advocacy work through lupus awareness You've been doing this for just about 11 years, counting.
Yes.
I want to ask you here,
Yes.
Rihanna. Well, you spoke about the pandemic. Yes, it opened the eyes of employers for them to see that employees did not necessarily need to come into work and they could have worked from home. But tell us this morning, in terms of what the COVID-19 pandemic did in the lives of persons with lupus. This is somewhat of an autoimmune disease, yes? Tell us what
Yes.
how this virus impacted the lives of your friends and family, those who are affected by lupus.
That's an incredible question, because let me tell you something, Aria. The pandemic disrupted so many persons' lives, and the issue of hydroxychloroquine, one of the most important drugs that's used to treat and manage the symptoms of lupus, became an issue, a global issue, where there was global shortages after the then US President Donald Trump touted that hydroxychloroquine was the potential cure for COVID. It was a new virus. This was very new. This was back in, as soon as the virus more or less hit in March of 2020, there was, in the US, it was just crazy mayhem where this drug was concerned. And supplies ran very low, even because of the pandemic, where borders were shut. There was basically a halt to production, stuff like that. Manufacturers in India and China, they weren't doing anything. So there was a total lockdown. And of course, the supplies ran very low. And then because of the touting of this potential cure for COVID, people started hoarding the drug. And this is where the organization came in. Ria, I was actually stranded abroad. I was in the hospital. I went for a procedure and I contracted COVID up there. And I was in the hospital and I was still lobbying for my patients, because many patients were severely impacted. Even those who have rheumatoid arthritis, they could not access hydroxychloroquine here in Trinidad and Tobago. It was being hoarded, and we had to take a stance. And I really went on, all the platforms, national television, lobbying the government to ensure that there was an adequate supply of hydroxychloroquine, because the minute you interrupt the treatment of that drug, the dosage, it can cause a patient to go into a severe flare. A flare is the term that's used when the symptoms of lupus gets worse. Organ involvement takes place.
Yes.
So the drug hydroxychloroquine was very, very important to that of a person living with lupus who uses this to control joint pains and the symptoms of lupus, and it became a very big issue. And, through our lobbying and stuff like that, we were able to secure doses of these drugs where we were able to donate it for free, because the price gouging took place as well, where you were paying $3 and $6. Some patients were touting that they had to pay as much as $18 and $20 for one pill. It was really frightening, and also, because of COVID, I mean, a lot of patients, developed an anxiety and fear of stepping outside, because the virus was very real. It's very scary. Even now, I mean, it has severely impacted the activities of the organization. As I told you, it's been 3 years that I have not been to Tobago to resume our activities, because I also have lupus and I have to be very careful who I come in contact with, because if I had to contract the virus again, I'm not sure if my body might be able to, to survive
Yes.
what I went through in 2020. Because when I got the virus, I mean, I thank God I did not go on a ventilator, and thank God, I had a friend who runs a wellness center. He sent me a nebulizer and some supplies to help me, because I couldn't breathe. I was having struggle breathing, and my doctor abroad was telling me, Rihanna, don't hesitate. You need to come to the emergency room. The minute you start gasping, shorting for to breathe, you need to come to the emergency room. And the double whammy of that was like, also, if you can avoid it, because we have no beds, the space ran out. It was craziness, absolute craziness, and of course, there are other aspects of COVID that affected the community of lupus. Many lupus patients contracted COVID, and actually passed away. I lost a very dear friend, one of our former directors, Reshma Cook. She contracted COVID. She was doing chemotherapy. She contracted COVID and her body shut down. Her body and went into massive organ failure with her lungs. You know, it was terrible. You know, I think last year was the highest fatality rate we had with patients, you know, losing their battle with lupus. You know, it was a really high statistics for the fatality. You know, so I mean, and going forward, we were also at the center of you know, providing vaccines for our patients to ensure that, you know, they are safe, to ensure that, you know, they can, you know, bounce back if they were to contract COVID. After consultations with our rheumatologists who volunteered to, you know, facilitate webinars to, you know, just to appease persons' concerns, because there was a lot of misinformation out there about the vaccine, and it was just fear-mongering, you know. And we partnered with the Supermarkets Association and the Diabetes Association, and we were able to vaccinate approximately 500 persons, you know. So we have been doing our part to really help persons stay safe, as well as to bring awareness in spite of the situations that we have faced, where lack of medication, many patients still benefit from our projects, where we are able to still give them medications for free, and also to provide food support, you know. So we do a lot of, apart from just bumping my gum standing here and talking about lupus all the time, we're doing practical solutions to ease the burden of lupus in a lupus patient, especially when those of them are not working, they are on disability, public assistance.
Well,
even that
Rihanna,
is an issue.
Yeah, we are definitely out of time, but we are out of time.
Well, we can chat all day.
That's right. Very quickly here, Rihanna, give us a contact for the Lupus Foundation.
Sure, you can contact us on 327-0220. That's the Lupus helpline number. We also have our support group, so you can join our support group via WhatsApp as well as on Facebook. And of course, the office line for the Lupus Learning Resource Center here in Trinidad, San Fernando. You can call us on 221-9677. All right, so it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having us.
Always a pleasure to chat with you, and we wish you speedy recovery. In fact, manageable recovery, because we understand it's a process. So every day, one day at a time. Thank you.
And I can't wait to come back to Tobago.
Definitely. Anything for Tobago. I know she's anxious to be back. Well, viewers, lots more coming up on the program. So share the live, share the live, share the live.
It's a different type of thing down there. And we party till we drop down there. With a lot of pretty girls down there. Down in Tobago.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning.
Good morning, viewers. It's 8, and we're just about time to wrap here this morning on the Tobago Updates morning show. We are in our final few seconds.
Yes, Julian, in our final few seconds. A lot happening on social media, Julian.
Yes, and I want to make sure that we connect with our people out there. Denisha Jones, morning, Denisha. Auntie Annette Alfred. Auntie Annette, I see you out there. Thank you so much for joining us on the live. Miriam Scott. Joe Quashi. We're thankful so much to each and every one of you. Hey, look, my family out there, man. Brian O'Connor in the mix, Shirley Cook. We say thank you to each and every one of you. And those are persons joining us via social media. Lisa James and the entire team out there. Vernon Simon, Auntie Selma, my grandmother out there. Each and every one of you joining us via YouTube, via Gael, via M&E TV, and also those of you that continue to join us via TobagoUpdates.com. Coming in this week, we're going to be speaking to... We are hitting another radio station in addition to Smash Radio, where you can tune into us while you're on the move or relaxing at home. We are preparing to head on into GMT Good Morning Tobago with Candice and Denise here.
We certainly are, but very quickly here before we go, you know, social media is a buzz, Julian, with some comments coming in from yesterday's show. And to one of the persons commenting here, Sally Gale McNeil O'Connor. I care about you, I love you, but you really need to get your information, your correct information. Be careful of your source. Not everybody who's commenting on social media has all of the information about what happens in Tobago Updates. If you're in Tobago Updates, you'll know what's happening in Tobago Updates. But if you do not, I suggest that you get all of the information as it pertains to how we conduct things here at Tobago Updates before you spew accusations about Tobago Updates. So I just wanted to put it out there. You know, if you don't have the information, get the information before you speak on the issue. So, Julian, that's about it from me, and we trust that Tobago has a really great day. In fact, all of our viewers have a wonderful day. Just as we've been having here on set and right here at Tobago Updates, you know, we stay connected.
And very important.
That's right.
We thank you for the continued support, and tomorrow you'll also be having, our usual, and by now, Tobago Updates morning show, setting the trend, the only youth morning show. That's the Tobago Updates Youth Wednesday, so you can also look out for that in the morning here, courtesy Tobago Updates. Real, what we got to give them a reminder of before we head on in.
That's
with Candice
right.
and Denise here.
Stay safe. Remember to wear your mask, sanitize, and socially distance. We see you.
Bye for now, folks. Stay tuned.
Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning.
Tobago Glass Supplies has been a leading name for over 37 years in the glass and aluminum market in Tobago. We provide an extensive range of high-quality, innovative aluminum and glass products for commercial and residential use. Competitive prices with superior and professional services by committed employees who are guided by rigid quality standards. Tobago Glass Supplies specializes in the manufacture and installation of glass and aluminum products that are essential to today's homeowners and the business environment. We are engaged in marketing, sales, and installation of a variety of products. These ranges from windows and doors to necessities such as mirrors for homes and vehicles, designed and manufactured in-house or imported.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash and transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
Tobago in May. Prices are sweet like mango at Thorns Place. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp. Call now 745-7306 for our May special starting at 200 TT at Thorns Place. Prices are sweet like mango.
Are you looking for that all-in-one shopping experience? Then look no more. Visit Lamb's Best Mart for your grocery items, fruits and vegetables, drinks, home items, stationery, gift items, hampers, shopping gift cards, toiletries, small hardware items, and much more. We provide order and pickup service, even delivery to your door. We are your friendly community supermarket. Check us out today at Lamb's Best Mart, located at 22 Daniel Trace, Canby, or visit us on social media at Lamb's Best Mart.
Yeah. Hey. Tobago updates. Na 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 na. Good morning, Tobago. Na 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 na. Wake up with Candace and Denise. Let's go, go. It's a brand new morning. Rise up to a brand new dawning. As the passion start to rise, the energy fill the skies. I say thanks for favor to wake up and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people strong, and the vibes is never wrong. We are beauty, we are power, we are people in the sun. We are beaches, we are rivers.
Tobago Carnival Committee announced.
Government seeks to expand budget by $3 billion.
THA received $62 million in supplemental funding.
And in sports, Republic Bank Cup returns.
Good morning, Tobago. Good morning, Tobago. Good morning, Tobago.
Welcome to Good Morning Tobago. I am Candace Jackson.
And I am Denise Demser. It is Tuesday, May 17th, 2022. Let's get into our top story.
THA was allocated $62 million out of the $3 billion that central government is requesting to supplement the budget for fiscal 2022. Minister of Finance Calum Imbert led a motion for the adoption of the report of the Standing Finance Committee in the Parliament yesterday.
The Tobago House of Assembly has been given $60 million to pay overdue debts to the National Helicopter Services, to pay arrears owed to TNTech. So National Helicopter's arrears will be settled by the payment of $27.8 million, TNTech by the payment of $19 million, and there's also funding for gratuity for persons who work for the THA who have completed contract.
The sum equals 2% of the total allocation. According to Chief Secretary Fali Augustine, he had hoped that the THA would be granted a sum in line with the Dispute Resolution Committee ruling that states the THA should be allocated between 4.03% and 6% of the national budget.
Less than 4.03% of the $3 billion additional monies he placed on the budget, and the law says we should get 4.03%, which would have taken us to a little over 100 million, but he gave us $60 million.
Augustine requested $200 million from central government, for which he had hoped to use to settle outstanding debts to contractors.
Meanwhile, revenue and the gross domestic product for Trinidad and Tobago has increased, according to Finance Minister Calum Imbert. He presented a motion to approve the Standing Finance Committee on supplemental funding for the National Appropriation Bill of 2022 in Parliament yesterday. Here is more in this report.
Finance Minister Calum Imbert says the mid-year review indicates a positive report for the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. He dismissed the many intellectual voices that have criticized the government's handling of the economy.
There is so much uninformed, inaccurate commentary outside there. It's very disappointing.
According to Imbert, the information available through the Central Statistical Office website indicates that the economy is improving, public debt is decreasing, and the government has not borrowed any money since December 2021. It moved from a deficit of $9.095 billion in fiscal 2020 to $4.7 billion in September 2021, and now to a surplus in the second quarter of 2022.
Based on revenues received and expenditure incurred, the government has actually recorded a surplus of 654 million, some 5,408 million higher than the projected outcome in the first 6 months of the fiscal year.
The revenue earned came from taxes on income profits, taxes on goods and services, duties from customs, and taxes from international trade. Together with increased oil and gas prices, the national GDP has also improved.
Our GDP has bounced back from a low of $140 billion when we were in the throes of the pandemic in 2020. Our GDP had dropped as low as $140 billion. It has bounced back from that figure to $180 billion in 2022, a huge increase of $40 billion.
Pegging the budget to US $95 per barrel of oil and US $5 per MMBTU of gas, Minister Imber says the country's revenue will improve.
We expect that we will generate additional revenue in this fiscal year of somewhere between $4.5 and $5 billion, Madam Speaker, of which we are using $3 billion today to deal with all of these issues that are contained in the supplementation of appropriation, Madam Speaker.
The $3 billion in additional appropriation is mostly intended to treat with outstanding debts the government owes to TNTech, TSCT, WASA, and other contractors. It will also be used to pay outstanding VAT refunds to businesses. For Tobago Updates, I am Candace Jackson.
A request of $3 billion to pay bills is how Opposition Leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar describes the mid-year budget review. It was delivered by the Minister of Finance, Colm Imbert, in Parliament yesterday. While Imbert made an optimistic presentation about the state of the country's economy, Persad-Bissessar says nothing is further from the truth. Here is more in this report.
A rise in the country's GDP and the start of a surplus for government expenditure is as a result of high energy prices in the world. However, Opposition Leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar rebuked the Finance Minister's optimism as false hope.
After the war in Ukraine, after these prices go back to normal, what will you do? What will you do? Because you have shown no projects, no policy, no strategy, no programs, anything to grow the economy, what you're boasting about high energy prices.
Instead, she described the media review as an underhanded attempt from the government to squeeze taxpayers to reward themselves. While debts need to be paid, Persad-Bissessar says the government should be investing some of the revenues from the energy sector.
So these arrears date back, those utilities and so on, as I told you, since 2018. So I don't see where you're going to get anything to inject in the businesses and cause growth for those businesses. That's not going to happen, Minister.
The government is using some of the money to pay long overdue VAT refunds to the businesses. But the opposition leader says it will not yield the results the minister is expecting.
It is over $7 billion owing to businesses in this country. Over $7 billion, and that VAT payment goes backwards. It's not like they're accrued in this year. It's for over a period of time that you have these businesses taking their money up front, paying it in VAT to the government, waiting according to law for the refunds to the VAT. And years later, you're still waiting. Your business gone bust by this time because of your upfront payment. Government is taking the money of the VAT taxpayers like a loan.
The opposition leader says now is the time for the government to position the national economy for the rapidly changing future.
Our economy is not being transformed. It is being pillaged in some ways to benefit a few. The $3 billion additional spending will not help create jobs or be used to invest. The minister says mainly to pay bills.
Debate continues on the Standing Finance Committee for additional appropriations to the national budget of 2022. For Tobago Updates, I am Candace Jackson.
The Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce is encouraged by what they heard in Parliament from Finance Minister Callum Imbert. In an immediate response to the mid-year review, the Chamber noted it was pleased to hear that increased energy prices is having a positive effect on the economy. They are particularly pleased with the government's decision to pay $1.6 billion in overdue VAT refunds to businesses. They are also looking forward to the minister's intentions to settle outstanding payments to contractors and pay arrears to utilities and outstanding gratuity to public servants.
Moving away from the media review now, members of the long-awaited Tobago Carnival Committee were released last evening via a press release. Secretary of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities and Transportation, Tashia Boris, promised to host a press conference to deal with speculations and questions surrounding the proposed carnival and to announce the committee. Instead, she chose to issue a press release. Chairing the committee will be Misha Trim. Other members will include Anya Elias, David Maraj, and Christoph Roberts. It would also include representatives from the Pan, Mass, and Calypso fraternity, along with the Tobago Tourism Agency Limited and the Tobago Festivals Commission Limited. According to the release, the committee is responsible for conceptualizing the format for the inaugural October Carnival, fostering collaboration and innovation amongst creatives, and ensuring the festival reflects the culture and history of Tobago. No timelines were presented in the release, nor any indications of when the schedule of events will be announced. However, the committee will come into effect on May 30th for the duration of 6 months. The Tobago Carnival is expected to take place on October 28th to the 30th of this year.
Find out more about the return of the Republic Bank Cup when we return after the break.
Tobago Glass Supplies has been a leading name for over 37 years in the glass and aluminum market in Tobago. We provide an extensive range of high-quality, innovative aluminum and glass products for commercial and residential use. Competitive prices with superior and professional services by committed employees who are guided by rigid quality standards. Tobago Glass Supplies specializes in the manufacture and installation of glass and aluminum products that are essential to today's homeowners and the business environment. We are engaged in marketing, sales, and installation of a variety of products. These ranges from windows and doors to necessities such as mirrors for homes and vehicles, designed and manufactured in-house or imported.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago, turning now to sports. After a 2-year hiatus, the Republic Cup returns to communities throughout Trinidad and Tobago. This year's edition of the Cup kicks off at Constantine Park in Macoya on June 4th. Here's more in this report.
In the finals of the 2022 edition, Gateway Athletics Director Adrian Romaine promised that scouts from the United States and the United Kingdom are expected to be present. Players will also have the chance to earn themselves a spot in an all-star team that will travel to a residential camp in Virginia, departing on 16th July. Organized into boys under 14, under 16 and under 18, and girls under 15 and under 19, the Cup will run for 6 weeks after opening in the East Zone. It will continue in the North, Tobago and the Central South zones over the next 3 weekends, with the national finals set for July 2nd and 3rd at the Atto Bolden Stadium in Couva. The following weekend there will be a college fair. Online registration for teams opens on Monday and ends for each zone on the day before the kickoff date of their tournament. Republic Bank and Gateway will confirm the prize structure for the competition on Monday. The Tobago Zone gets underway on June 19th and 20th at the Dwight York Stadium, Bacolet. For Tobago Updates Sport, I am Gail Thomas.
Now for the details in weather as forecasted by the TNT Meteorological Service. For the period today until tonight, a mostly hot, hazy and breezy day is expected, despite the odd shower in some locations. Tonight will be warm and hazy with a light breeze. There is a high concentration of Saharan dust in the atmosphere, and sensitive persons with respiratory conditions are being advised to take the necessary precautions. Winds are blowing east-northeast to east-southeast, getting up to 45 kilometers per hour. Seas are moderate to occasionally rough, with waves reaching up to 2.5 meters in open waters and near 1 meter in sheltered areas. Temperatures are expected to get up to 31 degrees Celsius during the day and dip down to 25 degrees Celsius at night. The sun will set at 6:19 p.m. today.
Let's recap the headlines. Tobago Carnival Committee announced.
Government seeks to expand the budget by $3 billion.
THA receives $62 million in supplemental funding.
And in sport, Republic Bank Cup returns. That is all now for our news, and join us again tomorrow at 8 a.m. for more news. All right, well, Denise here. So we had a lot happening in our space, especially yesterday in Parliament, where the budget is concerned, and we saw Tobago getting basically about $62 million in additional supplemental funding for this fiscal year. And if you listen to the Chief Secretary yesterday, he had hoped to get, you know, a bit more, because we know that the THA is currently owing over $1 billion to contractors. So it's still going to be a tough road ahead for the THA to figure out how to balance in paying off their debts.
No, but yesterday he did say that they would not get a lump sum. They wouldn't get everything.
No,
but
they would not.
He gave the assurance that they would get something, pay off bit by bit, and that would kind of hold them until they are able to pay off everything, because there's a lot of money, and we have to take in consideration the fact that they owe a lot of people with the helicopter services, the TNTech, and there's a lot of money that is owed. So by rights, not everything would be able to be paid one time, but he did give the assurance that something would be paid. And you know, some people would say something is better than nothing.
Something is always better than nothing. So I mean, it's to be interesting to see what happens to that. And of course, the debate continues in Parliament throughout the rest of the week. I think today they will be discussing the cannabis bill in the Senate, because the Senate meets today, so they'll be discussing that bill, and you know, we're going to see what comes out of that. You know, there is a lot of speculation in the space about, you know, that whole construct that they're doing with the with marijuana, and you know, the decriminalization of it, and then how it's going to work in the space. You know, how are we going to build the businesses around it? You know, all those things.
But switching gears a bit, let's talk about the Carnival Committee. The long-awaited Carnival Committee has been announced yesterday. I actually thought that we were not going to get anything because there was no formal, you know, normally it would have a press release, like you would have the whole...
A press conference.
Yes. But it decided to go a different route. However, there are some names that are on the committee, and she said that, you know, they haven't released the calendar as yet. And I think a lot of people were kind of looking forward to that more so than the actual committee, because the persons, the stakeholders have been saying that they want to be able to have the calendar of events so they would know how to plan their own personal parties in the meantime, because they don't want it to be a competition, as I said earlier, and because you don't want it to be a situation where everything is happening all at once,
and there are clashes
and you are clashing and stuff like that. So they wanted to have the calendar of events so they could spread it out evenly. Hopefully we get it sooner than later,
right? And then, you know, there's that high interest out there, because as we spoke to some of the carnival stakeholders last week, we would know that there are the calls coming in, and we have other places like Guyana and so on that have released their calendar of events. So I mean, people are they're looking forward for that to see, okay, this is what's happening. Yes, I want to go because I know what's happening, and this is what is attracting me, and I feel comfortable that it's being organized, and that kind of thing. So we're hoping that, I mean, I know stakeholders would have wanted at least by the end of the month to have some of those details, you know, out there. But at least we have the committee now. I really do hope that we can have a conversation with the division or with the committee or whoever it is that's doing that would have that information about the planning, so that we can get an idea of what is to come.
We definitely will be looking forward and keeping our ears grounded to the information that would be released hopefully sooner than later, because persons are looking forward to see what is happening, and then some persons coming from internationally too, they want to be able to know exactly what is going on so they can book accordingly and plan.
And then there's the tour agencies, because there's a lot of tour agencies, and you know, they market carnivals to persons all around the world, and to market to those people, you need to have some kind of schedule of events to say, hey, this is what's happening, are you interested? Yes, this is a package, come. You know, that's just how it works.
Yes, most definitely. But today on our show, we'll be chatting with Senior Superintendent of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, Mr. Junior Benjamin, and we are going to be speaking about crime and our young people, particularly men. So stay with us and we'll be right back after the break.
Coconut's Cafe, the buffet restaurant that specializes in all your tasty local dishes for breakfast and for lunch. Breakfast includes coconut bake and sada roti served with chokers, bull joil and sausages in tomato sauce. Not forgetting beef and cheese pies, shepherd's pie, macaroni pie and rice in various styles. Meat served in a variety of flavors, garden salads and pasta salads. All this accompanied by fruit juices, coconut water, your choice of a great combination to appease your taste buds. So call us today to order, as we are here to accommodate your busy schedules or if you are having a cooking day off.
I'm Patricia Nicholson Richards to our top
Tobago
story.
Update Sports. I'm your boy Marcus Daniel. Thank you.
Trinidad and looms as
remains when the public is nobody lives here.
Oil and gas exploration continues to affect the livelihood.
Spearsides Marine
in Tobago fishermen.
When will the
Sion
Roxborough
Francis
Hospital be fully functional?
Of the 5 a.m. to 12 p.m. window
Still find
at the island
treasures like the golden
continue
waterfall.
to rise in Tobago.
It's a different type of thing down there. And we party till we drop down there. With a lot of pretty girls down there. Down in Tobago.
Good morning, Tobago. Good morning, Tobago.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago. Now we have a special guest today. We are chatting with Senior Superintendent of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Force, and that is Mr. Junior Benjamin. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Tobago.
Thank you so very much. Pleasant morning to you and all your audience as well.
How are you?
Well, I am blessed and I'm, grateful to be here. And again, it's always a joy to come and share information.
So let's get into the gist of things. Now we have seen, even though we have the murder rate is now 3 in Tobago, a lot of persons are still disheartened about the fact that there is 3. Some persons feel like 1 is too much. What do you say to that?
Well, I think that we have to look at things from an overall perspective. I think that when you look at the murder rate in Trinidad and Tobago, there has been certainly an increase. We are about 203 or so murders for the year compared to last year, and where we had about probably 123 around there. And when you see that there's an increase in every single division in terms of murders, when you look at the Tobago space, there is no increase. And I think you have to compare. When you compare that, you recognize that Tobago, we're doing fantastic. We're doing a very good job. You can say it's fantastic in terms of the work done here by the police to ensure that, Tobago will remain that place where crime is still at a low because, as you know, we are more or less a very tourist-oriented country. So this is very a positive in our response.
As it relates to youths, particularly your young men, now it's very concerning that our young men, both in Trinidad and Tobago, kind of decides to go down the route of crime. And now as a young person, especially a female that is looking on, we need our men. Men are our leaders. And when we see young males getting involved in crime, it is very disheartening and it hits you in a different direction because, as I said earlier, we need our men. So what do you feel is the reason why youths, in particular or men, are so gravitated towards crime, whether it be murder, whether it be violence, whether it be domestic abuse, specifically domestic abuse against our young women?
Yes, and truly, let me just say, being a male individual, I am a bit disturbed by what I'm seeing because I think it is setting a poor trend in terms of especially what we should be as men. But I believe that there are many factors that could contribute to it. One of those things, I want to start from the home. I think a lot of these young men, they lack that father figure. So many times what we recognize is that many of these people who commit crimes, when you go back into their history, either the father did not play a vital role in their lives, the absence of that father figure to cause these young men to be properly modeled so that they could understand what it is to be a man, probably plays a very important factor why now they're looking for it in the wrong places. So if they can find it in the gangs, if they could find it in the wrong company, you know, you find men lowering their standards or even becoming the standards that they have in their minds, that they want to be in control of every situation.
So how then do we bridge that gap? Or how do we come to a resolute between the men and not having a male figure or a proper role model at homes and seek that interest and that attention from the gangs or on the streets or the friends that tell them, boy, let me just do this what you could do for now? How do we bridge that gap? How do we get back our youth, specifically our men?
Well, I think you must start from the spiritual. I really believe that that's the part that is really not being put out there, but I believe the heart of the problem is a problem of the heart. And therefore, if we go back to the heart, I think that we need to start again bringing back our children or carrying our children back to church or to the mosque or to the temples where they're able to have some kind of spiritual values and understand that those values is what creates the real man on the inside. Then we need to also step our game up in terms of persons who are given responsibilities. You might not be the father of a child, but you might be the godfather, you might be an uncle. And it's time for the men in our families to step up and to show persons exactly what is expected in terms of what it is to be a man. You want even within the churches, you want the men in the churches to step up and really model that type of behavior so that a person can find that father figure even within the church. So we have all the institutions, you know, that must step up and really be a part so that even there's a void, it can be fixed, even within the workspace. So even within the work, I try to be that kind of model that anybody comes into my office, it doesn't matter who, they must find a figure where, hey, this is what it's all about. Let's sit down, let's talk. And it's not about using your fists, it's about using your heart and using, you know, your knees sometimes to pray about situation, and also to know that, hello, it is about the way you respond that people respond back to you.
Let's talk about domestic violence a little bit. So sometimes, based on the situations that you've seen, a lot of these females would go to police stations and they would make a report. And oftentimes the comments or statements that are made by police officers are very degrading,
yes,
so to speak. When you do take out a restraining order, sometimes that doesn't even prevent the perpetrator from getting access to you. Sometimes it bears no weight. So how could we go about properly safeguarding our women who come and make a report against domestic abuse, or whether it be sexually, whether it be verbally, whether it be physically? How do we protect them?
Yeah, well, I think that, first of all, a person is protected, first of all, by educating themselves. A woman needs to understand that, hello, you are important, you are special, and therefore it is so important that you find comfort not just in yourself. A lot of these people are persons who are victims of domestic violence find themselves keeping things to themselves. They're not sharing that information. I think that it is important that victims of domestic violence know to share that information either with a trusted co-worker, with a friend, so that persons can give them different shades of advice as to how they should deal with it. And I think at the same time they need to understand that the police have a responsibility. So it doesn't matter what the police says. You have to make sure that you go and make that report. If you're not getting action, I want you to make sure and call, go to the inspector in charge of that station if you're not seeing any results. Then if you're not seeing any result, then go to the assistant superintendent, the ASP, and then to the superintendent, and then to me. But I'm saying if you can't get anywhere, come straight to me. I am certainly going to deal with it, because we're recognizing that we wait too late. You understand? And people need to know that when you make a report, that something is happening, and therefore we want to ensure that we don't lose our life. So far, Tobago could we at least rejoice that to this point, while we have seen about 7 persons dying in terms of domestic violence in Trinidad, there has been none in Tobago. So we are grateful, and we are hoping that it would stay that way.
Definitely. In terms of crime prevention, is there such a thing? Can you prevent crime?
Well, I believe crime prevention there is something as crime prevention. I don't know if you could stop crime, but I believe we can deter crime. And therefore, crime prevention is very important. And you have to appreciate it from this standpoint that there are factors that contribute to crime. But there are also what I call factors that influence those factors. So for instance, to every there's offenders, there's victims, and there are places. Those are the 3 things that contribute to crime. But to every offender, you understand, there's a handler. And to every victim, there's a guardian. To every place, there's a manager. If you can affect...
I think you may have to go over that again for me.
All right. So for every offender, there's a handler, meaning that there is somebody that influences that offender.
Okay.
All right. Be it another peer or even the parents, is a handler. But to every victim, we are saying that to every victim, there is a guardian, meaning that there's somebody that person trusts. You would be amazed that if there was an ad that shows a mother driving and a child behind, and the child is saying, "Mommy, you're putting my life in danger," and then the mother slows down. "Oh, sorry." That child becomes, a guardian even to the parents. So, you have to appreciate that there are people that influence those things. And likewise, to every place, there's a manager. And that is what we are doing. We recognize that we had some robberies, and what we have done now is to, again, speak to the people that contribute to those places. So we spoke to the security firms, and we spoke to the credit unions, and we're now speaking to the banks. So we're talking to the managers of those places. So if we can, deal with those issues, then we can further stop crime, or even hinder crime from expanding.
Although we have 3 murders so far in Tobago, a lot of individuals may feel a sense of hopelessness as it relates to the police service, not really finding the perpetrators of the crimes that being committed in Tobago and by extension Trinidad. What do you say to that?
Well, again, I think that a lot of times the media contributes to what happens, and the reason for that is that we negative information, it goes on. So people come to the air and say crime is out of control, crime is out, and we just buy that. But the statistics, I always remember, if you go to school, if you must go to you have to get over 50% to pass. It's about statistics. The statistics is clear as it relates to Tobago. Tobago at this point in time has a -7% in terms of serious crime. What does that mean? Last year we had state of emergency. the regulations to guide us and so on. But now things are open. But even when things are open, we are saying we are -7% in terms of crime. It must be that the police is doing something right. And a lot of times people are not aware of this information, so they allow when people speak negatively to affect them. I am saying it is further from the truth. We need to know the truth, and again, if we know the truth, it shall set us free.
Do you believe, in your own opinion, do you believe that the crime has heightened based on the restrictions, certain restrictions being lifted after the COVID-19 pandemic?
But that's the thing. From what I just said, the crime has not heightened at all. What we have seen is that there are increases in certain things. So there is an increase in terms of robberies, yes. There's an increase in terms of even sexual offenses. But overall, while we had the crimes last year, we have less crimes this year by -7%. And it means that what people are saying that it has been heightened, that is not so. But what happens is that, again, whenever crime is taking place, people are drawn to that and people tend to believe the worst. And I'm saying it is not so. By far, the statistics will clearly show that. Even in terms of murders, Tobago is well within its control. If you talk generally, yes, we can see an increase overall in terms of our statistics. The reason for that is a lot of different factors. Again, we have to look at the situation. Some of these crimes are opportunity crimes. Some of these crimes, especially if we look in the Trinidad space, probably what you call gang-related crime or organized crimes. It is very little you could do with organized crime in terms of trying to find a solution. Opportunity crimes, like in Tobago, we are able to deal with it based on, putting things in place, talking to persons, and so on. Organized crime is a totally different issue. So crime is a complex issue, so you cannot really solve it overnight. However, let's be real. Overall, I think the police service has a -6% in terms of serious crime, and it means that the commissioner is doing a tremendous job, and we must commend the commissioner and his executive for a job well done, and we continue to serve this country, even though for some people they believe that we're not doing a good job. I think that we are, and I want to commend the commissioner on that.
My last question, because we are out of time, is how do we find a right balance with everything? And why I ask that question is because we are in a very hard economic times with a lot of things that is going up, whether it be egg prices, whether it be fuel prices, whether it be food prices, right? So how do we find a right balance? Because some persons feel like they are stretched thin, and in one's mind, the fastest and easiest thing is to commit a crime, do a robbery. So how do we find a right balance and really try to get back to that place of safe, green, and serene, and making sure that young girls, specifically myself, when I walk the streets, I don't feel like I have to be watching my back 24/7 because I'm not sure what is going to take place. Sometimes we are very scared about traveling or even being in certain places by ourselves because crime by itself is something that you are always worried about. Yes. So how do you find the right balance with, your mental capability to be safe?
And I think what you just said is so very profound, and I'm saying that because I love to go back to the good book, the Bible sometimes, and it says, how a man thinketh, so is he.
Right.
And then he also makes, there's a statement, a verse that says, when I was a child, I speak as a child, I taught as a child, I understood as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. I think that those two things are so relevant. If we want to see persons move from being a child to a man, we have to start to affect the thinking of our young men. And then not just the thinking, but the understanding. How do they see things, understand life, and understand that life is not about something that you get quickly. You have to fight for what you want. You have to study for it. And therefore, if we can change the thinking, it will change the way that we understand things. And eventually, it will change our speaking. And our speaking will eventually affect our doing. Likewise, I'm saying, even in terms of individuals, we become our standards. And therefore, if you have that internal standard, it doesn't matter what is happening on the outside, you will always rise. Even if you are in a deprived situation, in a poor situation. I've seen people who are in poverty-stricken situation become great men. And again, for me, that's a reality, because I recognize I'm very humbled always in terms of where I started to where I am today. And I always tell people, it's not about how you start the race, but how you finish. Finish strong.
Very nice words there. Thank you so much. I know you are a man who has a lot on your plate. So I want to thank you so much for taking time to come and have this, interesting and fruitful conversation here this morning.
You're welcome.
There you have it, folks. We heard from our very own Mr. Junior Benjamin, and he is the Senior Superintendent of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Force. Now, I wanted you guys to really take in account of everything that he has said. He has said some really nice and interesting things, but stay with us. We'll be right back after the break.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tobago. Your meals, medication, groceries, and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tobago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO, and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tobago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tobago's at your service.
And welcome back to Good Morning Tobago. Such a wonderful conversation that you had with Senior Soup Benjamin. He's one of our best, I think, in the force here in Tobago.
He is definitely a gem, and he, really shared some information and touched on some really important things, because I am really concerned as a young person who is looking on. I'm really concerned about our youth, particularly our men.
Yes.
I believe that they are destined to be leaders, and they are the head of the home, and as such we want to be able to look back and have somebody and say, no, we good, right? We secured. And I'm unfortunately not seeing that much these days, and it's a bit concerning, because when we reach a stage where we want to find a husband, like, what is going to happen?
All right, so folks, just know that if you need to be in line, your standards need to be up high. But anyway, so we have a very exciting day coming up. We have just at 10 o'clock the WhatsApp graduation that Tobago Updates is going to be bringing to you live, so just stay tuned for our pages for that. As well as this afternoon at 1 p.m. we are going to be hearing from the Minority Council. So the Minority Council is having a press conference at 1 p.m. Of course, I will be hosted at the Minority Council's office in Scarborough, and it will be broadcasted live on Tobago Updates. So stay tuned to our pages. We have a lot of excitement in the air. There's a lot of things happening, and of course, only on Tobago Updates you can find the latest details about everything that's happening.
Despite the outside noise, we are the best.
Yes, we are the best.
So unfortunately, it's time to go, but I say always stay safe, keep smiling. I hope that you have a wonderful day and an even better week ahead. Please stay safe, guys. It's very tumultuous times, and we want to make sure that we are protected.
All right, well, bye everybody. Bye.
New morning, rise up to a brand new dawning. As the passion start to rise, the energy fill the skies. I say thanks.